So you're thinking about buying or selling a home in Prospect, Kentucky. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about living in this desirable area of East End Louisville. From its numerous subdivisions and proximity to rural areas, to the things you may not like so much, I'm going to cover everything you need to know. Hey everyone, I'm Beth Geiser. If you're thinking about making a move to Louisville, then subscribe and tap the bell below for the latest local insider tips on what it's really like to live in Louisville, Kentucky. I just want to take a moment to thank you for being here. By watching this, you're taking steps to becoming an informed buyer or seller. And that's exactly the kind of person we love to work with. For over 2 decades, we've helped thousands of people just like you. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 9 months, feel free to reach out. All of our contact information is in the description box below. Ready to learn more about Prospect? Let's get into it. Okay, so Prospect is considered one of the more upscale areas in East Louisville. It's situated just outside the Gene Snyder in the east and northeast part of Louisville. It's really composed of two main areas. There's the US 42 corridor, and then there is Brownsboro. It straddles two different counties, Jefferson County and Oldham County. And whether you're in Jefferson County or Oldham County, residents can say that they live in the desirable 40059 zip code. That seems to be very important to people. Let's start off with the things that we love about Prospect. Okay, the first pro I would say is location. The US 42 corridor, especially, is adjacent to the Ohio River and River Road, and also just really minutes away from a lot of pastoral areas such as Goshen and Skylight. So you can really just be minutes away and you feel like you're in the country and you're in a lot of green space. The second pro is the number of upscale subdivisions. Now, along the US 42 corridor, there are Hunting Creek, Hillcrest, Longwood, the Sutherland, Paramount, and Bridgepoint. A couple of these are some older subdivisions. That would be Bridgepoint and Hunting Creek. They are in a much more established areas, with the newer ones extending further out US 42 east. All of these subdivisions have those homes that you would expect to see. They're very much that mixed mansion style of home. They have multiple bedrooms, big open floor plans, large finished basements, big attached garages. And all of them reside in neighborhoods that feel safe. People love to go and raise their kids. Now, there are also along Coverbridge Road, several subdivisions as well. That would be Neville Mead and Spring Farm, to name two. Neville Mead has a golf course along with it, which a lot of people love. It's definitely a links course. It's very wide and open, and it's desirable for people who love to play golf. Now, next in the Brownsboro area are two predominant subdivisions. One is Norton Commons and the other is Glen Oaks. These could not be more different than each other. Norton Commons is a planned use development, and it has a mix of shops and restaurants, residential and commercial. It's really large. It has more than 1,300 homes spanning over 600 acres and continues to grow. They're still in progress developing this neighborhood, adding more homes to it all the time. It offers a lot of amenities, such as amphitheater, there are farmers markets, it has a great community feeling. Across the road, you have Glen Oaks. This is more of a golf course community, so the homes sit on larger parcels. And there is a golf course and a country club there as well. The front half of Glen Oaks is in Jefferson County, and the back half is in Oldham County. Now, I will tell you that people scramble to get homes in Glen Oaks, especially in the Oldham County section. This is because of the award-winning schools out in Oldham County. So it's a very desirable section of Glen Oaks. Next, I would say one of the other pros of living out in Prospect are the many horse farms along US 42, Rose Island Road, and Coverbridge Road. So now if you are an equine enthusiast and maybe you're interested in riding, having a horse, taking lessons, something like that, this is the Mecca. The predominant sport here is 3-day eventing, and there are many, many farms where you can go take lessons and learn all about horses and get involved. And if you're not interested in it for yourself, just having those horse farms around you really adds to the whole feeling and ambiance of living out in East Louisville. The next advantage of living out in Prospect would definitely be the proximity to the countryside and the rural areas out there. The further east you go along the US 42 corridor, the more it expands out into horse farms. They line the road on either side, left and right. And some of them have even converted into more public space, such as Hermitage Farm. They now have a great restaurant out there called Barn 8. And it's a way that you can go out and kind of have that experience of, being on a working horse farm and feel like you're really close to that. Also along Coverbridge Road, another area of Prospect lined with farms. It's a winding, beautiful road, very rural, very green. It really adds to the experience of living out there. Next, I would say one of the great advantages of living out in Prospect are the golf courses. There's several really nice courses if you're a golf fan. So you can play Glen Oaks. It's open whether you live there or not. You can have a membership at Glen Oaks and play the course. There's Neville Mead. There's also Hunting Creek Golf Course. And then lastly, a smaller one is called Sleepy Hollow. There's many great choices if you're a golf enthusiast, and Prospect has a lot to offer that way. Next, I would say that one of the advantages of living in Prospect are the newer homes. Now, with the exception of a few subdivisions that have older homes in them, such as Fox Harbor, Hunting Creek, or River Bluff, you're mostly going to find homes that are newer in design and construction. And this is what a lot of people want because they really want to have those maintenance-free homes. So unlike some of the other areas in Louisville that have historic and interesting homes, you're just going to find a lot of subdivisions that have similar design. But that does give people the convenience that they want: larger homes, open floor plans, finished basements, multiple bedrooms, multiple bathrooms. Lastly, one of the other wonderful advantages of living out in Prospect is the Oldham County school system. Now, we've talked about this in some other videos too, but Oldham County is one of the best school systems in the state. And whether you are in North Oldham, regular Oldham, all of the schools in Oldham County have something to offer. Now, primarily, if you're living in Prospect, your students are probably going to go to North Oldham and be in the North Oldham system. This means North Oldham High School, North Oldham Middle School, and there's a choice of elementary schools as well. But regardless, every school in Oldham County is award-winning and ranked very highly in the state. The scores show it. Students there perform very well. And so it's definitely an attraction that people want to buy homes out in Prospect because of the school system. Anything really east of Hunting Creek is going to feed into that North Oldham system. Now, again, down in the other section in Brownsboro, if you live in the Oldham County section of Glen Oaks, your kids are definitely going to be in that North Oldham system. The schools are fantastic and parents want to be there. Okay, now that I've talked about the things that we love about Prospect, let's get into some of the things that aren't so desirable. First, I would have to say is the lack of interesting or historic architecture. Really, most of the houses out there have cookie cutter builds. They're just kind of those McMansions. They're absolutely really nice, but if you're looking for something a little more interesting or nuanced, you're probably not going to find it in Prospect. You're going to find the same kind of subdivision over and over and over again. But it really doesn't have any of that interesting, historic. Homes in Prospect tend to be very typical and expected for modern subdivisions today. Now, also, the next thing I would say is a drawback to living in Prospect would be the lack of restaurants. Along the US 42 corridor, there's really only a few stretches that have any offerings. Prospect, there are a couple of strip malls that have some restaurants there that are local, but there's just not that many of them. And then down River Road, you have a few more, such as Cunningham's, the Pine Room, and Captain's Quarters. Now, conversely, if you were to go into Norton Commons, you would find more choices there and some interesting restaurants. In the primary heart of Prospect, which is along the US 42 corridor, there just really aren't that many interesting restaurants. And for a foodie town like Louisville, it's really surprising that they haven't planted more restaurants out in the east end of Louisville. But that's what we have to live with. Also, in that US 42 corridor, I would say there's a lack of shopping. There really isn't any place to go to pick up a quick gift for somebody, or if you want to pick up an outfit or a night out you need to add to your wardrobe, you're just not going to find it. Most people will visit the Paddock Shops, a large shopping center situated on Brownsboro Road. Now, this has all your major retail outlets like Gap, Banana Republic, Eddie Bauer, and so on and so forth. There really isn't anything unique or local about it. Now, if you get into Norton Commons again, there you'll find some more shops and boutiques and things that are more interesting. But by and large, there's just a lack of interesting shopping to be had out in Prospect. Another drawback to living in Prospect are home prices. Prices have gone up considerably, making it really hard for people to afford a home out there. And as you can expect, with newer builds, larger homes, and a desirable school system, the prices have gone way up. In fact, in Norton Commons, it's not uncommon to find home prices as high as $400 per square foot. So definitely isn't affordable or accessible to everybody. And it's pretty typical in that part of town that you'll find homes that are priced around $275 per square foot. Another drawback to living in Prospect, much like other parts of Louisville, are traffic. So along the US 42 corridor, you have a lot of congestion there. Remember, you have a lot of large subdivisions all along US 42, but people are wanting to get into town. And so they're heading west, and they're really on that primary corridor of US 42 with only one other alternative to get into downtown or just to get in, closer to the business district, which might be River Road. And so there's a lot of traffic along US 42. There's also a lack of turning lanes. So if people want to turn into a shopping center or into a subdivision, there are very few lights and few turning lanes, and that causes quite a bit of backup in that area. Likewise, in the Brownsboro section of Prospect, there's also a ton of traffic. Remember, Norton Commons has 1,300 homes in about 600 acres, and Glen Oaks has probably about half that many homes. So there are also some other surrounding neighborhoods. They're all feeding into Brownsboro Road, and there's a lot of pressure westbound of people trying to get to the Gene Snyder, or just further under the Gene Snyder and further west on US 22. So there's a lot of traffic. It can really be a headache. Sometimes it can take 15 minutes to get through a series of lights and get onto the highway. So traffic in both parts of Prospect, whether you're at US 42 corridor or in Brownsboro, really can be a nightmare. The next drawback to living in Prospect, I would say, has to be the lack of an actual community feeling. Now, again, in that US 42 corridor, because you have so many subdivisions there, people tend to just kind of identify with the subdivision in which they live, but there's really not any central part of Prospect along US 42 where people go. There aren't any festivals, there aren't any events or anything like that where people gather and go hang out. It just doesn't really exist. It's a bedroom community mostly, with access to strip malls where they can get groceries and various sundries and amenities that you need for your daily life. But there isn't any central cultural hub of Prospect. Now, in the Brownsboro area, of course, you have Norton Commons, and that's what that whole development is all about, is that sense of community. It's a golf cart community. There's amphitheaters, events, farmers markets. That's where people will find that sense of community. But if you live in anywhere along that US 42 area, you just don't have that central feeling of community like you have maybe if you live in the Highlands or St. Matthews in Louisville. Lastly, I would say one disadvantage of living in the Norton Commons subdivision in Prospect would be that it is in Jefferson County. This means if you are a family with kids, your children will matriculate into the Jefferson County system. So your choices there are to put your kids into Jefferson County, or you might choose to put them into private schools. But unlike most of the other subdivisions that are in Prospect that feed into Oldham County, you don't have that advantage when you're in Norton Commons. And the school systems, of course, are so desirable out in Oldham County that so many people want to live out there. Norton Commons has a lot to offer, but it does feed into Jefferson County, which has its own challenges. Okay, everybody, well, that's it today for Prospect and what it's like to live in Prospect, Kentucky, the pros and cons. We always want to make sure that you have the information that you need. Now, if there's something that you thought of, please make sure to drop a comment below and let's get some conversation going around it. I want to thank you for dropping by and watching Living in Louisville with Beth Geiser and Zach Fry. Remember, if you're considering buying or selling a home in Louisville, Kentucky and need some help, please be sure to reach out. All of our contact information is in the description box below. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or our favorite, schedule a Google Meet. We'd love to talk to you, discuss your goals, and help you out. We look forward to working with you.